Ho, 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 ho. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Ladies, gentlemen, gamers, and fellow zombies enjoyers, welcome back once again. So, today on the chopping block, I decided to do something a little out of the usual. Not too out of the usual, but a little out of the usual. And today we are going to be discussing, reviewing, going over, giving my opinions on Sker Ritual. So, what is Sker Ritual? Well, Sker Ritual is a game, it's a zombies game, made by, from what I know, a five-man team of developers. Now, there's a little bit more I want to say about the five-man team of developers and kind of what my thoughts and assumptions are, because I didn't do any research. And that goes into my next point of I didn't make a script for this, and I could have, but I didn't. I wanted to be more off the cuff. So this might be a little disorganized and a little all over the place as always, but I don't want to edit, I don't want to make a script, so we're doing this in one go. Either way, it's made by, and by it I mean Sker Ritual, is made by a five-man development team. So pretty small team, but from what I can tell and what I can feel and from what I've heard along of, the community members and the other content creators, that it's a team of, I would hope to be, and sadly, frustrated players from Call of Duty Zombies. Now, the first thing that people will notice about Sker Ritual is that it looks like COD Zombies. And when I say COD Zombies, there's a lot we can explore here. And this might be a little bit of a long-winded video because I'm going to be going over a lot. But it basically looks like old school COD Zombies. Now, COD Zombies has evolved from being round based and having not too many bells and whistles to now being God knows what. Freaking Outbreak came out and then all this other bullshit. I don't even know where the zombies like gameplay is at. I don't know where the lore's at. It's basically become a huge clusterfuck and it's been failing a lot. Like, I think the biggest mark that zombies had that really showed its downfall is really when things start to get I don't want to say granular but modular, where things start to be easy for the development teams to where they just shoved in stuff for multiplayer. And there was always this debate in the zombies community, even with the old school maps, where it's like, oh, this is just a map from the campaign, or oh, these are just reused assets. Most zombies maps are reused fucking assets. Obviously, they have new stuff, but most of them are reused. However, I would say Cold War was kind of the tipping point where things were like, okay, this isn't just reused, it's just like copy and pasted. Obviously, they added more, but a big chunk of it is copy and pasted to where it's like, okay, I recognize this from the campaign. They just took this and worked off this. They didn't really reorganize it too much. So I think after a certain point, especially when we got operators as well, when there was operators for zombies, when it was no longer like the four main cast of characters for whichever map it was, when you could pick and choose which characters you wanted, signified that marketing had won. Corpa had won, and zombies became commodified to the point where they cared more about making money than I think they cared about gameplay and lore. Well, lore is kind of a tricky subject, but anyway, back to Sker Ritual. So the development team, I believe, is a group of either frustrated zombies players or people who know that players like me are frustrated with zombies, at least the current day zombies. Now, a little bit of information about me. I am a zombies god. Now, again, I don't want to edit this to put this information on the screen here, but you're just going to have to take my word for it because I'm a truther. I have experienced zombies for a very long time. I used to play, my first interaction with zombies was, ironically enough, Call of Duty Black Ops 1. I was a little tyke, it was in middle school, I just beat the campaign. I'm like, yay, I just beat the campaign, Mason, what's behind the numbers? And then I get shoved into Kino der Toten, and I'm like, what? Oh, like what's going on? I was scared shitless, and the little stupid kid that I was, not only was I scared, but I was dumb. And I didn't realize for a whole week that you can open doors. I didn't realize there was doors because I was that stupid and that scared of the zombies. Because Black Ops 1 had a very gritty feel. But anyway, I played Black Ops 1 and I absolutely fell in love with zombies. Now, I was shit back then. I'm not shit now. So after Black Ops 1, I went back to World at War because I fell in love with the wonder weapons, I fell in love with the lore, I fell in love with everything that was unique about zombies. I loved round-based zombies. I loved just trying to survive, finding a place to camp, or finding a training spot. It was amazing. It was great. And, eventually as I continued my zombies career, Black Ops 2 came out, I played that. Black Ops 3 came out, I played that. And when I say I played that, I mean all of the zombies, all the DLCs, everything. You know, when I was younger, I would think getting past round like 40 was an achievement. I would think like, wow, you're a god if you got past that. And then I basically got to round 100 and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, some maps are easier than others, buried. But, I think getting pretty far in zombies is an achievement. Now, the basic problem with zombies that ended up happening was that it became very repetitive and it was very simple at its bones, at its core. Now, was that a bad thing? I don't know. But obviously, to please the shareholders and to show off something new to attract new people, not only investors but customers, they needed to make zombies more, as I said before, modular. So they made it more with new bells and whistles, more appealing to casuals, and especially with the introduction of operators, they made it so the multiplayer people can come over. And again, I kind of said that was where the downfall was, and I do really believe that. But regardless, I've played every zombies that was a Treyarch zombies up until I think today, because the only zombies I haven't played was everything after Cold War, and I never really fucked with the Exo zombies as well. The Exo zombies I was kind of whatever at. But regardless, I played Outbreak, I played all the other stuff, and it was interesting. As zombies went on, I got better and better, but my love for it decreased and decreased. I still love it to a very big extent. Zombies holds a very special place in my heart, which is why I'm making this video. But enough talking about Call of Duty Zombies. Let's go to Sker Ritual here. So, Sker Ritual is basically, I think, trying to capitalize on the player base of old school zombies heads, the people who want the old school classic feel. Now, whether that can have longevity or not, I don't know, because it is the same old thing. Now, again, people want that, but how many people want that is the question. Is it profitable? And I guess we'll see with the future of Sker Ritual, but let's just talk about Sker Ritual now. So, on first load-in, so I got the demo. I didn't get the full game. There's two things available right now, and one thing I do want to mention, which is going to be a big factor in what I'm saying, is that Sker Ritual is an alpha. It's very early on, allegedly. Now, for being very early on, there's a lot of great things I have to say about it, but there's also some very big negatives, from some very glaring negatives. Now, again, I've only played the demo because I'm poor. I don't have enough for the full version. But off rip, I will say this: they got the classic zombies feels down. Like, it feels like a classic round-based zombies mode. Now, granted, it's not outdated. So, classic zombies, when people say classic zombies, they'll have different definitions of it. Is there perks? Is there no perks? If you're really old and you started World at War, you're going to be like, oh, there's no pack-a-punch, there's no perks, it's Nocturne and Toten. And then different people will be like, oh, there is perks but no pack-a-punch. And then there's pack-a-punch but no traps. And then there's traps, and then there's modified ammo types like Blast Furnace that can make it so training is basically the best thing ever, and you can get to whatever round you want. You don't need the wonder weapons, and so on and so forth. This is where Sker Ritual decided to take a best blend of everything that the COD games did, but restrict it to mainly round-based zombies. And I think that's a very good thing in some aspects. Now, the biggest thing I noticed is that, and this might be a detriment, I'm not sure, and it could be alpha, a lot of things could change, but when I loaded in, it did feel like zombies. However, even with all the bells and whistles, it had things where you can upgrade. You can upgrade the perks. You have little elixirs you could drink that could give you different stuff. There is a degree of randomness, which I really enjoyed. It almost made it kind of like a roguelike where I would want to play again. You can upgrade your knife, you can upgrade your elixir, you have an ultimate ability, you can upgrade your grenade, and you can upgrade, I think, your bullets as well. And they have the whole god theme too, and that kind of reminds me of Black Ops, I think it was 4. Yeah, it was 4, where you kind of had the different god themed perks. Even though they weren't perks, they were like things you could drink. But regardless, same shit. So basically, they kind of copied that, but they didn't make them perks. They made them sort of just like updated, upgraded modifiers that you can have, which is pretty interesting. But one main issue I had with them was they were kind of ass. So I'll get into that in a minute. So the main map I played, I forgot what it was even called, and that's another big issue I had. I've only played it once, right? I've gotten the demo, I've only played the demo once, and the big issue that happened was it was way too fucking easy. Now, maybe that's just an issue with round-based zombies. Maybe that's an issue with this game specifically, but I did notice, despite it feeling like zombies, there's a lot of stuff that did feel a little bit just like, maybe they used free assets or maybe they cut corners here and there. But one thing that happened was I could push the zombies. If you're training, you could just literally push through the zombies. If you're trapped in a corner, In old school COD games, you were fucked. Unless you killed that zombie, you were fucked. In this game, I literally stood in the corner, a zombie cornered me, and I just walked forward and I moved it. And I was like, that's interesting. And then the zombies, when they hit pretty slow. Like they wind up and they take a big swing, and then, if you dodge left or right, they kind of miss. Now, in the old school COD games, that's how it was too, for the early rounds. For the later rounds, things got a lot quicker. In Sker Ritual, I didn't really notice that. Now, there was times that I did die in Sker Ritual. I'm not going to say it was completely easy. There is a lot of shit they throw at you. And one thing I also want to say is they overload you with alternate zombie types, but we'll get into that soon. But for the base zombies, they weren't really necessarily that fast. There wasn't really a big threat with them because you could just push them if you ever got like cornered or anything. And when they hit you, they were pretty slow all throughout the rounds. Now, I got to basically round 40 on my first playthrough. I pretty much, as far as I could tell, unlocked everything. There is Easter eggs in the map, which is very good, but another thing was it was too easy. Because the Easter egg basically, it tells you how to solve almost every part of it. There is some rudimentary puzzles here and there, and again, maybe they might change this going into beta or full release, I don't know. But the map seemed pretty well put together for an alpha, where it's like, how much are they really going to change from here? I don't know the developers, I don't know their track history, so it kind of seems like worst case scenario, things are set in stone, they'll just add a little bit of like spice and flair here and there, but I don't know. But the whole Easter egg I did knowing nothing, and basically them hand holding me through it, telling me what to do, where to go, and how to do it. There's only one or two times where two of the puzzles were kind of like a little difficult, but even then, it wasn't anything serious to where like I couldn't do it. I literally beat the whole game, the whole Easter egg, and everything in my first run through of a map. And in old school zombies, I'm not gonna say that was impossible, but it was very, very hard, extremely harder than it is in this map. This map, the demo map was very, very easy. So mainly, the one thing I do want to say though is the game feels good aside from visuals because they have the whole look and whole aesthetic of the old school zombies down. It is gritty, it is gory, but the feel of the game is also really good. You would expect from this being like a non Call of Duty developer that it might feel shitty, but it feels really, really solid. And I'm very, very shocked at like how many things are good for this being an alpha from like 5 people that I allegedly didn't know about. Now again, I don't know the group's name. I just know it's from 5 developers, but from what I've heard and what I know, this is like really, really good again at the base level. But I'm getting into the nitty gritty here. So the other issue that I mentioned before, there's a lot of alternate zombies here. There's regular zombies, run of the mill zombies, and they kind of are pretty funny. They carry around axes and stuff, so it's like, oh wow. And then when I shot them, I also noticed the physics are really, really good in the game. Like when I shot them, there was a point where like one of the zombies' axes went like flying to like the left of my head. I was like, oh shit. I think it'd be cool if sometimes if that might hurt you, that would be a little bullshit though. But because the game is already so easy, I feel like it wouldn't be too bad, at least for me personally. But the physics were really good. Like everything at the core levels was really built together well. The music was good, the visuals was good, and the feel of the game was good too. Now, the alternate zombies types. There's a lot of them. There's like range zombies, there's zombies that explode, there's zombies that are invisible. There's a lot. And I'm assuming for the other maps there's probably even more from what I saw from like clips online. So there's no, lacking of variety in alternate zombies types and stuff. However, one of the issue is there's kind of too many of them. This is where they kind of do spam you a bit, and I don't know if they thought that would increase the difficulty, but it kind of really didn't. It just added a little bit more of an annoyance factor. The only zombies that were really tough for me to deal with were the exploding ones, and that's because if they explode right on top of you, they do a big chunk of damage. And the biggest thing I have to say about how easy this game is for the first half of my playthrough in this map, I forgot at what point I realized it, but I realized I didn't have the equivalent of Jug. And again, all of these things you can upgrade. You can upgrade all the perks. The perks are like upgradable. And already at the base level, I felt like some of them were useless, some of them were okay. But none of them really stood out as like OP, but they didn't need to be because the base game is just so easy. But for the first half or a good chunk of the beginning of the game, I realized I didn't have Jug. And I was like, oh wow. Not that I felt like I needed it, but I was like, oh shit. And it's the base level of Jug. So again, think of World at War, or not World at War, sorry, Cold War upgrade system where it's like, and now when you upgrade Jug, you actually get more health. In this game too, in Sker Ritual, by playing, you get a currency which you could go outside of the game, in the game menus, and once the game's over, and upgrade it and just get more powerful perks the next time you go into a game. So it was kind of again really really easy. But some of the zombies they introduced, especially some of the I would say mini boss zombies, were kind of all right. You know, the game definitely has flair. It has a lot of lore, a lot of lore. But the main issue with the game is that a lot of things just felt like bullet sponges, and this is the other issue. Like I said before, they did take a lot of other stuff from other zombies games and they kind of melded it into one. But the main thing they didn't take was the alternate ammo types, like Blast Furnace, like Brain Rot. And a lot of these, from what I'm mentioning, I think were prevalent in Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4 especially. But these alternate ammo types changed the game. Before, the whole strat with zombies was, you know, get far, farm points, and then activate traps because that was the main way to kill zombies eventually because their health infinitely scaled. However, without alternate ammo types, or with alternate ammo types, you can just kill a whole wave no matter what round it is. You don't even need the wonder weapon. And we'll go into the wonder weapon of this map soon, and one major complaint I have with this, and that's the guns. But we'll get into that shortly. But essentially, what ends up happening is that because they didn't include alternate ammo types, you basically have to rely on just shooting, right? And from what I saw, there weren't really any traps on the map I played. Now, maybe I missed them, but I didn't feel like I really needed them. And that's because of the pack-a-punch system. Now, this is going to, you know, this is where we're going to start going into the positives, negatives, but it's more subjective. Now, the biggest thing I noticed with the pack-a-punch was, you know, it's like old school pack-a-punch with zombies, except for modern day. So you could pack-a-punch once, and then twice, and then 3 times. And each time you do that, you increase your damage. But it doesn't end at 3. You go to 4 to 5, and so on and so forth. Now, the biggest thing about zombies that I liked, and there's a couple things with zombies that I liked specific to this, with pack-a-punching, was number one, the naming conventions. In Call of Duty Zombies, I really liked getting new weapons, especially wonder weapons, and pack-a-punching them just to see their cool-ass names. The M16 in Black Ops 1 became the Skull Crusher. I forgot what the other stuff became because it's been so fucking long, but not only did the name change, but the gun kind of changed too. The gun look changed. They had, like, you know, each map had a cool pack-a-punch skin, most likely, usually. Black Ops 1, that wasn't really the case most of the time. It was just kind of like red lines on the gun. But other maps, you know, and other iterations of Call of Duty Zombies did eventually have map-specific camos for the pack-a-punch. But regardless, not only would it change the name, not only would it change the skin, it would also upgrade the gun, and it would always add a little bit of an extra sound, you know, a little bit of a lasery sound. It would upgrade the bullets. It would make it like a red tint when you're firing. The gun looked, felt, and sounded upgraded. In Sker Ritual, it does none of that. So and sometimes the guns would even operate differently. So for instance, right, the M16 became, I believe, full auto, and I believe it got a grenade launcher, and then the AUG from Black Ops 1 got upgraded. I don't remember if it became full auto, but it got an underhanded shotgun. It got an underbarrel shotgun to it. Sometimes the weapons changed, and, you know, for instance, the ballistic knife became the cross defibrillator, and it would res people if you shot them with it once pack-a-punched. So some weapons literally just changed their gameplay. Their name, their gameplay, their sound, everything. Again, in Sker Ritual, none of that fucking happens. In Sker Ritual, the most you could hope for is, okay, let's just say I have, like, an MP5, right? And they have some other name for it, but it's basically the MP5. I have the MP5. I upgrade it. The MP5 now turns into the MP5 Tier 1. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Does it look any different? No, not really. I feel like some of them did look different. I feel like they got like a little light bulb on the side or something. But it was barely anything noticeable, where sometimes I questioned if there actually was something different. And some of the guns just literally didn't change, I feel like. But again, that could be an alpha. I don't know what's going to change past alpha, but I have to say stuff about the game as it is now. And I will give suggestions and hopefully big hopes for the future. But that'll be near the end, whenever that is, of this video. So, regardless. It basically became the MP5 Tier 1. It didn't change any sounds. It didn't change any looks. The name didn't change. But the only thing that did change was the damage it does. Now, the damage that pack-a-punching gives you for a lot of the weapons was pretty fucking pitiful. I will be straight that honest. The scaling for the zombies kind of outpaced most of the weapons, especially if you would get to Tier 2, Tier 3 and stuff. The one thing that is good was ammo was plentiful. There's literally ammo stations all around the map you could buy, and the ammo is pretty cheap. However, what ended up happening was, if you can't kill the fucking zombies, it's not like old school zombies where every shot gets you a point. It's every kill gets you a point. Shooting does nothing. So it's like if you can't really kill that much and you're requiring a lot of bullets to kill something and it's slow as shit, then there's an issue. Now, again, the main thing they decided to do to kind of mitigate, or I guess at least address the issue of, you can't kill anything the Rasslans forever, is number one, they allowed you to pack a punch multiple times. So I think I got up to a maximum of four, and there is a fifth tier as well. I don't know if there's a tier after fifth. I'm honestly not sure. But the fact that it infinite scales is, well, allegedly infinite scaling is pretty decent. It's a pretty lazy answer to the problem. However, the issue becomes the pack-a-punching becomes so fucking expensive. The pack-a-punching becomes so expensive that you literally cannot afford it. It's 60,000 points at one point, and it's like, this weapon, even with this pack-a-punch, like, tier 4, tier 5, isn't killing things. So what's the issue? Wouldn't this make the game harder? What happened, right? How is there a solution to this? And this is where, through doing the Easter egg in the map, you basically get the Wonder Weapon. Now, the Wonder Weapon for the demo map is kind of lazy. It's kind of whatever. And again, this is where maybe they're just starting off small. They're starting off soft. I don't know the other Wonder Weapons in the other maps, but the Wonder Weapon in this map at first looked kind of cool, and it reminded me of like a Wonder Waff, but it really wasn't. It was just a gun that at its core just shoots straight and pierces, which is really good, but it's a lightning gun. It's basically a rail gun, and it did do great damage. And the biggest thing was this gun was a crutch gun. You get it pretty easily from the Easter egg. If you don't do the Easter egg, I don't know how you're gonna get it because I never saw it in the box. And the box is something we're gonna go over as well. But the Wonder Weapon basically is just a damage stick. It's a damage piercing stick that just like nails the zombies straight through, and it's pretty good. That was basically my main weapon that I had to use past like maybe round 30 because just other weapons couldn't keep up. The Wonder Weapon, it wasn't crazy, and again, when you upgrade it, it just really increases the damage, nothing else. The name doesn't change, nothing really changes. And that was a really big negative I had. The Pack-a-Punch was kind of boring. Again, they could hopefully change that, and I hope they do, but regardless, the Wonder Weapon was kind of a crutch weapon because nothing else really mattered. Now, going to the other stuff that didn't matter, what ended up happening was a lot of the other upgrades I mentioned, especially with the tonics, with the special grenades you would get and you would eventually level throughout the game. The first upgrade you get for each of the little materials would decide which one you got from which god. And it would either be a poison one, a healing one, an ice one, a fire one. There's all these different ones, but the main issue that I ended up seeing, because I did play this not alongside friends in the same game, but friends played it at the same time as me because we all got the demo, which again is a big negative. You can't play with friends in the demo. But one thing I noticed that some of these things, or most of these things, were kind of weak. They were kind of dumb. And I understand, you need to add variety in games, but I would really rather you add variety with purpose rather than just adding things in general for no reason at all. And the main issue becomes a lot of these things were useless where it's obvious what was good and what was bad. In my run, I used, I think, the ice ultimate and the stun ultimate and like some ice tonic, where the ice tonic basically gave me extremely reduced damage for 30 seconds. And then the cooldown of the tonic was 30 seconds. So I can basically always have damage mitigation up. And in a game where already I didn't find it too difficult to die, I was like, okay, this is kind of overkill, where it's like, if I don't want to die, I don't have to. And then the ultimate basically stuns zombies. It was a basically get off me tool, kill everything near me, and if it didn't kill the mini bosses, which obviously I can't one-shot them, it increased my damage to them. And I was like, okay, this is kind of whatever. Now, some of the mini bosses, like I said, are pretty good. There's only, I think, two in the demo map. It's like some big fucking Abraham hulking guy, and then there's like an abomination monster that is really fast. Abraham's slow, and he kind of has a ground pound. The abomination is fast, but none of these things were a fucking issue. I'll just be straight up honest. They really were not anything. It was kind of scary to see the abomination at first, and he might kind of fuck with you, but if you can train in zombies, you're basically fine. You're basically fine. So, regardless, the one thing, aside from the Wonder Weapon being a crutch weapon, that I did kind of have an issue with, but is also a good thing, and there's good and bad to this, is the mystery box. So the mystery box in Sker Ritual is kind of like a little dog in a doghouse. It's like a traveling dog. Now, what ends up happening is, number one, unlike the mystery box, you have no clue where the fuck this thing is, right? I looked in the sky and I was like, okay, I don't notice anything. I basically have to run around the map. And again, I only played the map once, so I didn't know the locations. The more you play, the better it is. But for the mystery box in Call of Duty Zombies, you look up to the sky, you know what direction is, you know kind of where you have to go. For this little dog thing in Sker Ritual, you didn't really know where it was, and you would kind of have to look all the way around the map just blindly and randomly, hoping you remember the spots, and then eventually finding it. And that wasn't necessarily like too much of a pain point. Maybe it is good to have some things be a little harder, because again, the overall theme of this thing is things are too easy. But the main thing that I had an issue with was, or not that I had an issue with, that was good, but again, I have an overall issue with, is the fact that the stuff you would get from the box, and this kind of goes into the guns, was everything was kind of useless. Now, I've already touched upon this with the damage numbers from everything, not only the grenades, the elixirs, all the other stuff you could get. A lot of stuff was just kind of really useless after a certain point, and sometimes it was really early on. The poison stuff fucking sucks cock, I'll just say that right now. But the main big thing was the box gave pack-a-punch guns after a certain point. So it's very similar to, again, Cold War, where Cold War would give you different tiers of guns. Not pack-a-punched, but different tiers. And that was pretty good. However, most of the weapons don't do damage, and they're pretty useless. So, did it really matter? No. And again, when you pack-a-punch them, does it really change anything aside from damage numbers? No. So while that's a good thing in theory, in actuality, it really does not do anything. So again, you're just going to have to, if you want to get far, use the Wonder Weapon and keep upgrading basically only that. Now, there was one other weapon that I did end up finding in the box. It was called the Howler. And this thing looks like a little blunderbuss pistol, which was really, really cool. Excuse me. However, it did basically no damage. Same with the other stuff. The little effect it had, which I thought was unique, was when you shot it, it shot like a bullet, like a ball, and the ball would bounce around the walls and it would bounce around the map. Now, it wouldn't bounce for too long, but it would noticeably bounce. And sometimes, if I was in like a narrow hallway or like a small room, that bounce would end up hitting a couple of the zombies. And I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. And I was hoping if I pack a punched it, it might lead to something different. But as always, I was disappointed. And basically, it just couldn't keep up. The amount of ammo it had and how much it took to kill, it was inaccurate. It didn't do a lot of damage. The bouncing mechanic only really worked in very select scenarios. That was the only weapon that I thought was really unique. Everything else is just a gun. Like, it's just a gun, it shoots, and, everything has its own little place. If you like shotguns, there's those. If you like snipers, there's those. Although the snipers really did not do a lot of damage, and I found that very, very sad. But basically, you have to use the Wonder Weapon. If you want to get far and not spend 10 minutes there killing something, you basically have to use the Wonder Weapon. And that was one of the main issues I had. So, in total, right, because now I'm kind of getting to the end of everything, I'm kind of reviewing everything here. The whole theme of the whole map was, it was kind of easy. A lot of the stuff was cool that it had. It had a lot of, I think, good bells and whistles. It's like imagining if zombies were to come out today and it wasn't as bare bones as it was back in the day. It came out with a good amount of stuff. And it's good, but the main issue is a lot of it doesn't matter. A lot of it isn't really that good in actuality. It does feel like zombies. And again, for a 5-man team, I think they're doing astounding work, especially this early on. I'm just really worried if they don't do anything or take this anywhere. Now, the main things, like I said, that could be improved is, I think, number one, pack-a-punching. Make sure when you pack-a-punch the weapons, at least get an audio effect, visually they change, and they give them fucking better names, like, please to dear God, right? Let that happen. Number two, the Wonder Weapon, make it more interesting. Now, hopefully that's not an issue in the other maps, I wouldn't know. But the Wonder Weapon kind of just, again, going up in tier and just increasing in damage and literally just being like basically a rivet gun was kind of like lacking to me, especially when it was lightning themed. The Wonder Weapon was very lightning themed. I was like, oh, maybe it'll chain, maybe it'll do something. No, it just pierced them and that's it. It was basically like a big skewer kebab. And I was like, okay, I mean, it's not bad, but it's kind of whatever. We want to have very interesting, very nice Wonder Weapons, very unique Wonder Weapons. I think that's one of the hallmarks of zombies, and it's something that'll strengthen this game too. Aside from that, I think it's really how much do you want to innovate and how much do you want to make it different from the core. People will like this core, and people who are not as good as I, sadly there are a lot of people like that. But will they be happy with what there is here? I think yeah. I think honestly it's pretty good. And on the lore aspect, this game absolutely kills it. I didn't read any of the lore, but there is a lot of lore to this game. I don't know if it's any good, but just playing the game for the one match that I did, going around the map, there was so much lore to collect. Killing things gives you lore. And you can see in the map that there's definitely lore, and there's definitely a theme. The theme is like, I don't want to offend anyone by saying this, but it's kind of like old school constable, like British sort of thing. It's like We Happy Few. Think of We Happy Few, and it's kind of like themed around that a little bit in terms of how it looks and how it sounds and stuff. It's pretty funny. It's it's a nice, wacky, whimsical thing that Zombies used to have as well. Even though Zombies was dark and gritty and COD, it also had its wacky little elements here and there. I think this is kind of the same way, although it's a little bit more fantastical because there's a lot more going on. Again, the mini bosses were kind of varied. You literally have like ghost zombie bitches screaming at you, being invisible, teleporting, fire zombie bitches who are like exploding. Like, it does look a little bit more goofy than old school gritty zombies, but it's still pretty dark. I do like the theme a lot, but the lore is definitely there for those who are interested. But the gameplay is just, I think, a little lacking right now. The perks, I think they could do a lot better on too. Some of those perks really felt like gas. Like, oh wow, 7% movement speed. Oh, cool. And you do have infinite sprint, by the way, in this map, which I personally like, but it does really make it a lot easier. Maybe they should have given you infinite sprint with the perk instead. I think that would have been a way better choice, and especially if you had to work up to it the same way they did in Cold War. I think that would be great. But giving infinite sprint on the get-go is kind of like what are you doing? Now, a big thing I do have to mention here at the end, though, is there is difficulties to the game. There is normal, hard, easy, nightmare, and stuff like that. Now, I played on normal and hard, and you know, with either one, I didn't really find it too difficult. But if you really want a challenge, you could play on the hardest thing. But I feel like just arbitrarily increasing the difficulty like that, where things just do straight up more damage and stuff, it's kind of lazy. Again, the biggest thing I think is things are a little lazy, or at the very least, they could be more creative. But overall, though, I still am very, very impressed by Sker Ritual. And the biggest thing with Sker Ritual is it's only $30. If you want a decently good zombies experience that, again, is in alpha, so hopefully it can only go up, I think it's a very, very good starting point. It has a lot of pain points, right? Like the box not knowing where it is, the pack-a-punch being whatever, the weapons being really kind of weak. There's no traps as far as I've seen. And things are just really easy in terms of doing the Easter egg. I think they shouldn't hold your hand that much. And the final boss fight, I'll be honest, so, you know, I'm going to put a little spoiler here. I usually don't like to go into spoilers, but I will say it here. So if you don't like to hear it, you know, listen away or don't listen too closely here. I'm not going to spoil everything, though. But in the final boss fight, you end up fighting one of the mini bosses that essentially was just going around the map, but it's just a bigger version of them. It's a bigger, huge version, and that's pretty much it. It does have some other movesets. It has like a chain hook. It ignites some of the floor on fire. So it's pretty basic stuff if you've ever played games before. It's nothing new. But I actually found beating this thing was more easier than beating the mini boss. The mini boss was more annoying because the mini boss was tankier. And it was harder to hit because it was a little smaller than the big final boss of the map. And I was like, wow, this is a lot easier than killing the mini boss. Literally the same thing. I was like, holy shit, this is just like kind of annoying. So yeah, those are basically my things, right? Just upgrade, or not upgrade, but do better with the pack-a-punch. Maybe have like a little indicator where the box is, and don't make things too easy. But I guess that kind of gets adjusted with the difficulty if you really like that. But I think it's a little bit, I don't want to say lazy, but that one's more variable. That one's a person-to-person thing. But for sure, upgrade the box, upgrade the weapons. And because, again, I played on normal hard, and even then I felt like the weapons were doing a lot of damage. If I go on the hardest difficulty, nothing's going to die. The Wonder Weapon is really going to be the only weapon you really fucking use. And a lot of the upgrades, like I said, to the grenades, to the knife, are fucking useless. At least anywhere past mid to late game. So, overall, if they just improve those pain points, I think this could actually be a really great thing. Now, hopefully they don't charge for DLC. Who knows, right? But for what you're getting for $30, if you just like zombies, I think it's a great deal, honestly. I think this has a lot of potential, and I do want to see it succeed, because, again, it feels like a lot of the nonsense that Zombies has done just taken out and really refocused on, like, classic feeling zombies. Classic feeling, but with a modern era touch. So I really, really liked it. But anyway, that's going to be it for my review of Sker Ritual. You know, please tell me in the comments if you agree, if you disagree, if you even made it to the fucking end. And if you want to see more of me, you always can at Twitch TV/Tecnics channel, where I stream live occasionally. Anyway, I hope everyone enjoyed, and let's hope for the future of zombies. Let's hope, at the very least, right, that this puts a scare in Treyarch's pants, and similar to Pal World, which is hopefully what's going to happen to Pokemon, they scare Treyarch into making their product better. But, you know, we never know, because zombies has unfortunately become a whole lot of shit. But either way, I hope everyone enjoyed.